Um, Hi everyone. It's a little late in the year to be doing introductions, but we're from the Divinity School, one of the smaller schools on Harvard's campus. Zishan can't be here right now, but he's an MTS doing religion, ethics, and politics. I'm Searing and I study neoliberalism from a couple different lenses, and I'm graduating from the MDiv program next year.
I'm Taylor. I'm a second year MTS candidate graduating in May. I'm studying religion, state violence, and ethics.
And I'm Mary. I study philosophy and technology, theology of technology. I'm also an MTS major second year, graduating this May.
So the history of the Div School, we were founded in 1816. You might know that Harvard College was first thought of as a school for pastors. We were the independent school beside that, founded a couple hundred years later. We currently have 4 degree programs, each with their own area of focus that you can come up with. The first is the Master of Theology, super small, 3 students. The second is the Master of Religion and Public Life, which is a 1-year program and was just announced for professionals. The third is the Master of Theological Studies, which is the 2-year program that my other lovely co-reps are doing. That's 172 students, so that's the largest. And then the last is the MDiv program, which is the one that I'm doing. And you can focus on whatever you want to do, but you need to do language, and you also need to fulfill the field education requirements, which we'll touch on in the future. And it used to be that you could do a doctorate through the Divinity School, but that's now done through GSAS instead.
Fantastic. So at HDS, we focus on religion and intellectual leadership, professional service, and ministry, with the aims to provide professionals and scholars around the world research and leadership opportunities and service to peace and religious and cultural diversity.
There are 5 goals at the Divinity School, and they pretty much coincide with Harvard University's goals too. I think when most people think Divinity School, they think, oh, everyone's studying religion. And that's correct to an extent. I am not studying religion, but there are several who want to go into ministry, and several who don't. Our biggest goals are about offering religious studies for all students across the university, to help diverse communities engage with past and contemporary issues, to study religion through lenses of diversity. And some of our professors at our school are among the cutting edge, I would say, of like feminist studies, race studies, in religious studies, to foster a welcoming and inclusive community among our faculty, students, alumni, and staff, and also a commitment to ecological sustainability.
There are a variety of leadership opportunities for students to take advantage of. We have a weekly noon service hosted by different student organizations and offices at HDS, not all religiously affiliated. There's also a connection with Harvard's Memorial Church, so opportunities for healing and spiritual spaces in collaboration with the staff there. Different student organizations and initiatives across the campus. A few are mentioned there, including the HDS Student Association, our school government, as well as additional HDS related publications. You can see a few there, and I will pop the link, a sampling of the Religion Beat podcast for you if you're interested. And then most notably, March 2021 news, the HDS faculty calls on President Backow and Harvard management to divest from private prisons. That is our latest news that we are very excited about. So I will link the article here.
A big part of the MDiv education is field education. So the idea originally was to train for the ministry with an emphasis on practical experience and reflecting on that experience. HGS has a different understanding of the ministry than is traditionally assumed, I would say. There are some areas of the ministry that deal with engagement that deal with racial justice and peace and conflict. And you can explore all these different areas of ministry through about 100 accredited field ed sites with Harvard, which include churches and parishes, but also nonprofit groups and hospitals as well. So just some examples are the Harvard Immigration and Refugee Clinical Program, which is run out of the law school. And the idea of this program is to bring divinity students to communicate the needs of the clients of this clinic to the attorneys and the students that they're working with. Another is Mount Auburn Hospital, and another is the Arlington Street Church Fellowship, which is an LGBTQ-friendly church in Boston. And there is also opportunity for student-initiated placements. With the advent of COVID last year and its continuing effects this year, this has become a lot more popular as students try to figure out their place, in this world, and also what needs must be addressed within the context of a pandemic.
And within the past year, HDS has been committed to building an anti-racist and anti-oppressive divinity school. And with that has come the new Associate Dean for Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging, Dean Bartholomew, as well as a year-long common read and reorientation process and kind of coming together of the entire HDS community. So we are reading the Little Book of Race and Restorative Justice, Black Lives Healing, and U.S. Social Transformation. And with that comes breakout opportunities to engage across otherwise kind of siloed identity markers. So faculty, staff, students, as well as scholars in the field and public activists all have gathered for that.
So that's what we've got for you all. Do you have any questions?
Looks like question.
Yes. Sorry. I have a question, which is, what is the sort of, is there an infrastructure that exists for HDS students who are training to provide services and spiritual religious counseling to students around the other graduate schools? Is that an opportunity that you all have? And do you find that you get to interact with others? Because it seems what you're saying that there's sort of a practical training element to it, and then you're also studying what your field of study is.
Maybe the other students might have a better idea of this, but I haven't heard of that. I don't think that we really have programs dedicated to being therapists for other students at different schools. But a lot of students at the Divinity School take classes across the different schools because half of our curriculum or half of our credits can be from other schools, half have to be from the Divinity School. So students end up taking classes across like generally the Kennedy School and the School of Arts and Sciences.
All right, guys, thank you so much for your school tour and presentation. It was great to hear from all of you. So without further ado, yep, and if you have any questions, it looks like Taylor, yep, and you guys are free to drop your emails or anything if you want in case someone wants to reach out to you more directly. And so without further ado, we're gonna move forward with the agenda items. So the next up is the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Few motions to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Sorry, who said that?
Naomi HES.
Thank you. Is there any dissent? Okay, then agenda is approved. So real quick, the next line item is HGC elections. So traditionally, it's supposed to be the president and the vice chair of governance who's supposed to run elections. But as a reason of conflict of interest, I gave my full power over to Emily Mello. So Emily, who is the senior outgoing HGC representative, will be working with Cynthia to run elections and tally the votes. So she'll be running all of the polls. And just so all of you guys know as well, tiebreakers will be done by Emily and Cynthia as well. So with that, Emily and Cynthia, I'm going to give the floor to you guys.
Great. Yeah, thanks so much everyone for coming today. I'm really excited to get elections started and see what next year's executive board looks like. So to get things started, I wanted to just read, and also this was sent out in the emails that we sent out regarding graduate council elections. But first, there is one vote per school. And for the candidates, when you're looking at the legitimate criteria for choosing the best candidate, please think about one, personal character and qualification for the position, past productive experience with HGC, diversity amongst the executive officers, so a variety in schools represented, demographics, perspectives, and ideas and visions for the program, as well as teamwork, communication skills, available time and attitude of the full commitment to the position, and respectability within their home institution, which could be evidenced by status as a rep to the HGC or a member of their school's student government. And for all candidates, if you are elected, you must be available to attend in-person meetings should Harvard return back to on campus, on Harvard's campus from 7 to 9 p.m. Mondays, weekly for executive members. Because we have bi-weekly meetings for the executive board and general council meeting. And then the location, just note that the location will probably alternate between the 12 graduate and professional schools. And as per the Constitution, if elected, you may not serve on your respective home student government organization in the capacity of president, vice president, or equivalent positions. Okay, all right. So just some clarifications for how voting is going to happen. And how positions are going to be run. We will have the positions run in the order that they appear in the Constitution. So first is going to be president, then running for vice president, then chair of operations, chair of finance, chair of student life, and chair of advocacy, and chair of information. Each candidate has 2 minutes for their speech. Emily will be in charge of keeping the time, and you will be muted at 2 minutes. So please note that, and don't be too upset when we can't hear you after 2 minutes. And then we have 3 minutes for questions for each candidate. And for those asking questions, which would be first, the executive incumbent. And if the executive incumbent does not have any questions, it will be followed by reps. And you have 15 seconds to ask your questions. Keep it short and sweet, and use your raise hand function, and I will call out the names of 2 to 3 people to ask these questions. Nominations can be made from the floor, and writing candidates are allowed. So if you did not submit your nomination for any of the positions and you wish to run, you can make that nomination from the floor before that position is, before elections for that position is started. And you should privately message Emily Mello, who is the host, to let her know that you plan to do that. And then polling is going to be done via a secret ballot. So unless our council decides to not do that, so it's be 1 vote per school, and then only the Harvard Graduate Council reps can vote. So if we exceed 12, then we have to redo the vote. And absolute majority wins. So this is a difference from previous years, which means that if none of the candidates get majority, we'll drop the lowest candidate with the lowest number of votes and then run the vote again. If there is a tie, the president and the senior outgoing, well, it would have been the president and the VC of governance, but today is the senior outgoing HGC rep. We will go into a breakout room to vote on which candidate to pick. And then if elected, please stay until the very end. We'll have a group photo. Brett has some great thoughts for doing fun end of the year, I think plaques or something like that. So he'll talk a bit more about that. But HGC reps, please also stay behind so we can get your photos to put on those lovely memorabilia. And then for candidates for your presentations, please list your name, your Harvard school, your graduate or professional degree granting program, and then the HGC position you're running for, and your qualifications, please. All right, so yes, yeah, if you're a write-in candidate, please privately message Emily Mello. All right. So we'll start.
Clarify that.
Sorry.
Yeah, let me just clarify. I private messaged Chinsia. So if you're a write-in candidate and you nominate from the floor, because your name won't be on the ballot, HGC reps, if you're voting for that candidate who was nominated from the floor, since their name isn't an option, you're gonna have to private message Emily or vote instead, if that makes sense.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay, sounds good.
So just one other thing. So just to clarify that, if you want to be a write-in, make sure you message me as quickly as possible once we're announcing the position so that we can share your name with the group to make sure that you would get the write-ins that you earn.
Okay, great. So we'll start with our candidates for the president position. So we'll have Peter Choi from HMS as our first candidate, and you have 2 minutes, Peter.
Hi, everyone. My name is Peter, and I am part of the Master of Bioethics program at Harvard Medical School. And I want to start by talking about, some of the things that we've accomplished this year and kind of building on that. So I think that one of the most valuable things we've done is establish a lot of partnerships and collaborative relationships with external bodies at HGC. So for example, this year we've gotten a rekindling relationship with the Crimson. So now we have Izzy, who is our liaison, coming to our meetings and helping reporting on some of the advocacy events that we've voted on. And we also have the Harvard Student Union, of which, I'm going to give full credit to Searing, our HTS representative, who wanted to establish that relationship. And now we're able to have a liaison there as well. Now we've sort of expanded our efforts. And one of my objectives as HGC president is to really push forward that same partnership and collaborative relationships. So we're really good at pushing our thoughts and positions into public statements via resolutions, but we can do much better than just angling a position. It's not just about advising and sharing our thoughts, but it's about having the student voice actually at the decision-making table. And we need to hold Harvard accountable for certain types of actions. And I've already started this legwork speaking with the provost office and Marshall Page, who's at the provost office, and establishing relationships with the Harvard ID office, Harvard Library System, Harvard Environmental Council, and even the new Office for Gender Equity, where we're trying to get a student seat onto these committees so that students can actually make a decisive decision-making vote rather than just pushing for advocacy that administrators can ignore. And I think that's incredibly valuable if we want to actually address major things that you want power to change, such as lowering tuition during COVID, violence against ethnic and racial minorities, campus security, and divestment against fossil fuel initiatives. So I think it's really important that students have a voice actually at the table to have the ability to make these decisions. Thank you.
All right, great. Thanks, Peter, for that great talk. So now we can take 3 questions from the floor. I guess since I am the incumbent, maybe I can start out first. So yeah, I guess Peter, could you let me know a bit about what your 3 goals that you hope to fulfill in your time as president, and then elaborating on one that you definitely want to make sure is something that is implemented during your term?
Yeah, so I think we can split up the relationship building in a lot of different categories. So number 1 would be to establish a stronger relationship with more of the media related organizations both student and local. So I would love HGC, like we've already started the groundwork with the Harvard Student Union, who has a really close relationship with the Boston Globe. So anytime that they feel like they want to push forward an initiative that's not really getting through the administrators because they're just ignoring something that student says, then I would really like for media coverage, particularly a nationally well-respected newspaper, to be able to cover major initiatives at a university like Harvard. So whether that is, the Crimson, or whether that is, the Lampoon, I know that's more of a comedic, journalism outlet, but I think that's really important. A second relationship category that I think is really important to build are the smaller committees that I talked about, right? I think those are probably more achievable and lower hanging fruit because we've already established communication and the legwork to get a student seat on the Harvard Transportation Committee or the Harvard Environmental Council. When we have major concerns about things like Harvard's fossil fuel divestment, now we're actually able to get HGC reps into a decision-making body where Harvard is making those decisions, not just signing resolutions in order to promote advocacy that an administrator can easily push away. And then the last major, and this might be more of a pipe dream, but I really do think it's possible with Harvard for its effort, I would really like a member of the HGC exec board or an HGC rep to be a sitting one-year member on the Harvard Board of Overseers. And while that might sound almost unrealistic, I do want to disclose to you that Duke University and Cornell, they don't have two governing bodies like Harvard does, because Harvard has a Harvard Corporation and the Board of Overseers. They have one Board of Trustees, and one seat is reserved for a student's one-year term. So that student has full voting power on major initiatives, including appointment of deans, tuition setting, and everything across the board that you could possibly imagine that we've been fighting for this year.
Great. Anyone else have any questions? Please just raise your hand. All right, I see Rachel, GSAS, please.
Hi, Peter. Yeah, I was just wondering whether you could speak to your qualifications and experience for the role. Why you? What can you bring to the role?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that, first of all, in my limited role as vice chair of governance, I think it would have been really easy to do the minimum of just sort of, running meetings, working on the voting and the agendas and the constitutional amendments. But I think I've really worked with Himaja as well as Chinsi and Jojo to really establish these partnerships. So, for example, I think that my work history this year really is evidence of that. The fact that I was able to set up several meetings with the Provost's office this year with Marshall, speak directly to the Harvard Transportation Office when we were talking about potential bus routes that could be established between the Alston Engineering campus, Alston Engineering and Applied Sciences campus and the Longwood campus, as well as talking about things like the Harvard ID office, where Nariman, our Hugsy representative, talked about how some students are completely virtual and they're not able to get their student ID card. So how are we able to work collaboratively with these administrators to get the ID cards sent out to them? I think that in terms of already building networks and relationships with professional committees at Harvard, I've definitely proven myself more than capable of that. And I think, in the next year's HGC president, it just takes that little extra push to formalize it.
All right, and we're at time.
Great, thank you so much, Peter. So now we have our next candidate for the president position, William Chen of SEAS.
Hello, and to our first timers, welcome to the Harvard Graduate Council and our biannual lectures meeting. As Chanxia said, I'm William, and I represent the School of Engineering and Applied Sciences as a fourth-year PhD candidate studying a little-known field called computer science. Today, I'm running for HGC president because as an experimentalist, I really take pride in results. Just last month, I led the HGC effort to vocally condemn hate and violence against minorities in the United States in the wake of the March 16th mass shooting. With marshalling help from Peter and Himaja, and revisions from the exec and my fellow voting reps, the HGC unanimously adopted the broad range resolution, which signs on to the Asian Americans Advancing Justice Atlanta chapter and NAACP joint petition for change, calls upon our political leaders to take measures against those inciting hate, and seeks from Harvard the resources necessary for students to once again feel comfortable on campus and in the US. And now I want to hold HGC to our commitment on these matters. I want to establish a publicly visible tracker for our student body to clearly follow the progress on each of the changes we seek. If there is reluctance from those in power, as Harvard might be for allowing alums to send mail from Harvard alum email addresses, then the engineering side of me will look for alternative solutions. And if all else fails, I will pull in support from all angles to make sure that we put our agenda on the table. So in closing, my vision for the council lies in 3 points: action plus accountability, transparency, and leading by example. So to kick off that last one, today I surrender my privileges to the President's Clause of the HGC Constitution, which have otherwise barred Jojo, our current Vice President, and Peter, our current Chair of Governance, from running for HGC President, which would have been a big shame. And to my fellow voting reps who are also contending for exec positions, I urge you to do the same. Thank you.
Okay, great. Let's start off with some questions. Since we didn't really have that much time for questions last time, I'll just open it to the board to see if anyone has any questions. All right, Diego.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Cynthia. I have a question a little bit about some of the other things that you've done in the HGC other than the resolution, which I think was a fantastic one. Could you talk a little bit more about what it is that you would say like are your other top big accomplishments here at HGC?
Yeah, good question. I guess I've been part of HGC as a voting rep for about 2 years now. Mostly it's about learning what the whole system works at. I don't think I knew about the HGC when I first joined Harvard, and somewhere between my role as a co-president of Cs and as a voting rep, I've just been ramping up on what it is that we are to do. I think one of the most difficult things as a voting rep is just figuring out where to find the balance is between what we want and what we can do. And I think I've been talking a lot, especially recently, to Peter and other execs and representatives about what our goals are and really trying to define a vision, I guess, for moving forward on making things happen.
Any other questions? Okay, we have a question from Jojo, I think.
Yeah, you'll all hear from me in a minute. Anyway, but I am curious, William, how what your vision would be for how active a role you would like to see the HGC take in sort of public advocacy, on behalf of students, on behalf of the larger community. Obviously, you mentioned the statement, the resolution against anti-Asian hate, but would you like to see there be a more prominent sort of public role for HGC?
So that's also a good question. My experience with HGC then and now is that HGC is a great vehicle for representing a consensus within the students. And sometimes that means to Harvard, and sometimes that means to the global world. As far as what we can actually hold people accountable to, we probably have a better shot at holding Harvard accountable for actions, and Harvard itself also has more weight. So I think global public visibility is really good if we can turn that into actual change and actual action. I think one of the ways that we did this really well was last year when there was an ICE order to deport international students and prevent them from re-entering the US. There was a huge university-wide effort, and HGC was definitely a part of that, and making sure that Harvard also issued statements there. That is like the kind of public role that I think HGC can really be a part of. It's hard to say with kind of generality though.
William, that's time on questions. Good ending point.
Okay, great. Now let's have our final candidate for the position, Jojo.
All right, hi everyone. Thank you, Chensia, and thank you to all of our reps and everyone who is running for position and everyone for joining us this evening. As just mentioned, my name is Jojo Freundel. I am a second year, soon to be rising third year at the law school, pursuing a JD, and I am the current vice president of the Harvard Graduate Council. I want to just start in a similar vein to Peter and discuss some of the things that I think HGC did very well this year and where I see us moving, hopefully in the next year. This was in many ways for all of us the oddest and probably for a lot the most challenging year in our schooling lives, and that carried over very much to the HGC. As soon as last year's board was elected, we got into the summer, immediately we had to get to work to help first with pressing the administration to find out what the status of different schools were, whether they were going to stay open, whether they were not, where people were going to be if they had housing. And then as we moved into the summer, we had the ruling from ICE. For anyone who was around then, may remember the HGC actually signed on to an amicus brief in opposition to that ruling. And so we had just a very busy summer, and that moved into the fall. And as things came down, it really seemed that we were able, thankfully, to do a lot to help build and structure HGC to make us stronger, to build some sorts of relationships. And I'll end with just one thing to mention. When Shinzia spoke to the Ivy Plus group, which we have the opportunity to speak to, she mentioned three ideas: community, convener, and catalyst. I'm happy to take questions on those, but I think those are really the three concepts for HGC and how the president should lead us as well into the next year. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Do we have any questions for Jojo? Okay, if I don't see any hand, I will. Okay, let me ask my question first and then I'll get to our raised hand. But yeah, I was just gonna ask the same question that I had earlier, which is what is at least one goal that you want to see accomplished in your term as president next year, something that's actionable and is meaningful to you?
So there were a couple of things that, as you know, we started working on this year that are in various stages of development that I would really love and be honored by the opportunity to stay and be able to see through to completion. One of them is the development of various committees. There were always, for example, a finance committee. The EAC under advocacy has been around for a while, but we've sort of been fleshing out different committees and different ways for every member of the executive board and the representatives to help be involved in bettering the school. Another one in that regard is the formation of a student advisory board to speak with the president and the provost. I've been thankful over this year to be able to develop a very good relationship with the president and the provost, but at the moment it's still informal. It's still hard, somewhat, certainly the president's case, to get access to him, and therefore to have some sort of board that is a little more formalized. And then the other one that we worked on is the idea of a representatives orientation, so that reps coming in can have a sense already for what the HGC is, what the school is, what this incredibly complex entity that is Harvard University is. As Peter mentioned, there are two governing boards, and people can have a better sense for that right from the beginning. And that's something also that we've been working on.
Great, thanks. William had a question.
Yeah, I wanted to know, in your time as vice president, you have a pretty unique perspective of interactions with Harvard administration central people. What are kind of some things you've seen that you need to push a lot harder at, and things that you think HGC could put more force behind, and how might you make those things happen over time?
Yeah, so I think that's a really good question, William. I think that one of the things I've learned is that we really do have the ability to accomplish everything that we want as an HGC, but we have to be strategic and picking your battles is sort of a cliche, and I don't think we really have to do that. But we do have to be strategic about how we go about certain things. And I think the real important thing is building relationships, is being able to say that we are a representative student body, that we can go to the administration and say, here's something that we know from speaking with the students is very important to them, and you can trust us as having a good working relationship with you, so you know to take the action. Even for a place as supposedly formalized as Harvard, things are still very informal. A lot of it is just if you can get it on someone's table and they think about it. And in terms of what I would push on, a lot of the things related, I think, to equities in students' day-to-day lives. You know, questions, as we talked about, when the pandemic hit, for example, it really put into stark relief. But some schools are incredibly well-funded and some far less, and therefore they just have less resources. And so those are the types of things that we could try to press a little more on, to say, here are things that we know you behind the scenes can work on.
And that's time for questions.
All right, great. So now we enter the voting phase. So please, so Emily will launch the poll, and then please one rep after decision with the rest of your co-reps. Please vote, and also please know that you can also abstain from voting. Also, can everyone see the results right now, or? Okay.
Cynthia, can you see the results?
Yeah, I can see the results.
So we have 14 votes right now. We should only have 12.
Yeah, so we need to rerun this. Emily, would you mind doing that? Oh wait, okay. Let's see. So wait, so how should should we rerun it, or should we confirm who the extra people who voted are?
I think just make sure reps that only one representative from each school is voting, and I'll relaunch it.
Okay, we have an extra vote, Emily. Right? Am I wrong?
Everybody who just voted puts, says that they voted in the chat, and we'll see which two are from the same school.
Okay, yeah, can everyone who just voted put your name and then your school behind your name in the chat? That's yeah, public to everyone, that would be good. Oh, I think. Yeah, so Therese, I don't think you are a Harvard Graduate Council rep, so you cannot vote in the in the poll. Naomi is our rep for the extension school. Sorry if that was a point of confusion. Okay, great. All right, let us, sorry, Emily, could you relaunch the poll?
Yes. Is that the only duplicate we saw? Because we got 14 votes. So there's
do we get 14?
one other. Yeah. So there's one other. I mean, we could run down the list of schools and have someone speak up who's voting.
Okay, I can do that. Let me just double check. Okay, so we have HBS, and that should be Chuck. We have HDS, and it seems like from the people who listed here, it should have been Lear. From extension school should have been Naomi. GSAS should have been Rachel. GSD. Oh, sorry, GSD is layer. Divinity School should have been Taylor. School of Education, Narrowman. HKS should be Nick. HLS should be Diego. HMS should be Hugh. HSDM should be, they didn't write their name here, but I assume it's Dahi, is that correct? But all right, and then C's should be Rachel, and then HSPH should be Ridvig. I mean, that seems like the correct one, so let's run it again.
Helps build suspense.
We're missing one school now. We've overcorrected. So if one rep has not voted, please cast your vote.
Okay, all right, we have everything here. So yeah, let me just message Emily really quickly. Okay, so yeah, so we don't have a majority. So we need to, since we made the amendment to our constitution, we must drop the lowest candidate and rerun the poll. I guess if anyone has any questions right now, if you want to ask the candidates.
Who did we? Oh, sorry, the poll came back up.
Yeah. So we dropped William. Apologies to William. But we have the other two candidates that we will rerun. Oh, Rachel said she didn't get a chance to vote. Oh,
we'll be relaunching the poll. I think Emily will be doing that.
There was a quick poll relaunch that was accidentally.
That means though, okay, I mean, so we had made this poll totally anonymous that we couldn't see who was voting, even on our back end, but we got 12 votes.
Emily, you misunderstood what they said in the chat. The poll came back up like after the 12 votes, and people were just saying they couldn't vote that time, but they weren't supposed to because the name hadn't
okay.
Yet.
Got it.
So we're fine.
I'm just writing a new question. Give me 10 seconds. All right, new poll is up.
All right, yeah, so our final result is congratulations, Peter, for being our HGC president of the new year. Sorry that took a lot longer than expected, so we're gonna move on directly to the next position. If anyone wants to announce on the floor to run for vice president, please do so now before we start the position. Alrighty, we're gonna jump into elections for vice president, and well, I guess Peter already won his position, so we have Himaja giving her speech as the only candidate running.
Thank you so much. Is it okay if I start?
Yeah, unless there's any dissent from the audience.
All right. Hi, everyone. As you know, my name is Himaja. I'm a student at the School of Public Health, and I am running for the vice president position for HGC. When I first started my position as chair of ops, I spoke with my predecessor to learn more about the role, only to find out that many of the responsibilities were no longer applicable during an online year. Thus, over the past few months, I've endeavored to essentially build my role by finding new ways to support the functioning of the HGC. And this has taken my work in many exciting new directions. Peter and I, for example, started hosting one-to-one meetings per semester with all the reps and presidents. We also started working on individual projects with members of the HGC, Peter with the reps and I with the chairs. This year, I had the privilege to support our chair of advocacy, Abhinaya, with the DHS Rule and Comment Writing Workshop and the upcoming community engagement collaboration between HMS and HSPH, our chair of life, Angela Hahn, with the Democracy Day Initiative and the upcoming Mental Health Week, and our chair of communications, Tara Betsy, with the planning of the One Harvard podcast. The vice president of HGC oversees internal functions and ensures that we address the needs and concerns of the student body while creating safe spaces where constructive discourse and collaborations can happen. This mission drives me. This is work that I have already been doing and can build upon for next year. One of my goals is to identify key stakeholders in the central admin responsible for making decisions with regards to issues such as tuition, health services, and university scheduling changes. Through this road mapping, I hope to and have already started having discussions with the Office of Financial Strategy and Planning, for example, which can help us ultimately increase the impact of our advocacy and ensure that resolutions we pass are seen and considered by the right people at the right time. I also want to increase our partnerships with different campus organizations, something I've already started to do with our Office of Gender Equity, for example, in the spirit of recognizing that diversity, inclusion, and belonging should be at the heart of everything we do as a council. Overall, it's been a blessing to have represented you as your chair of ops this year, and I hope to continue to serve you as your vice president this year. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks so much. Do we have any questions? All right, we have Nariman.
Hey, Himaja, it was great working with you this year. And my question is, what is one failure that you had this year?
That's a really good question. I think that one thing that me and Peter have wanted to do, but something that we'll definitely have to do next year as well, is to make sure that all our representatives are part of their official student government and are active members of it. One of the things that we've noticed was that a lot of student governments have a disconnect with the work that the reps are doing and vice versa. And it makes it hard for us as HGC to have the power that we need and to have the voice that we need at these discussion tables to make change happen at the local school level. And so that's something we're actively trying to work on, ways that we as an executive board can support our reps and make sure they're being represented at their schools, and to make sure that we're providing enough spaces for our reps to communicate information from their schools to the HGC so that we can gear our planning and a lot of our work around that and make sure that we're really representing the student voices at the end of the day. And I think that's something that we've started to do, but I think that there's still so much work that needs to be done in that. I think Diego has a question, but I don't know if you have enough time.
Yeah, Diego, please go.
Thanks. So two things. One, not as much a question. Himajang, it has been such a great year working with you. And my question is, how did you not already get sick of Peter after this year that you wanted to work with him again? What's up with that?
Oh my God, Diego, I have to say, like, Honestly, HGC has been such a great experience just because of the friendships that have developed over Zoom. I think me and Peter we've just become so close through this entire experience. And one of the reasons why I was so passionate about doing VP in the first place was because knowing that Peter could potentially be president and having the opportunity to serve with him again was honestly the highlight. That was like that really just made the decision that much more easier. So yeah, it definitely, I think Peter and I are definitely excited. And Peter, you have full permission to continue bothering me, and I have full permission to continue bothering you. Let's make great work happen.
Okay, great. So we, I guess Emily, let's launch the poll really quickly. Okay, and congratulations, Simija, for becoming next year's vice president. Hooray, great. All right, let us move on to our next position, which is chair of operations. And we have running, our first candidate would be Lakshmi Soni from the extension school. All right, Lakshmi might not be on the call. All right, so we'll move on to our next candidate, Tara Bassi from the Graduate School of Design.
Hi, I'm Tara, and this year I served as a vice chair of communications. I'm also currently a master's of architecture student at the GSD. As part of communications this year, it felt like the role was more important than ever to have all 12 graduate schools engage, connect, also form a deeper sense of community while increasing the visibility of HGC in our offerings at a time that was completely virtual for many of us. And I feel in many ways, working with Heidi, the chair of information, we were quite successful in what we did. I've been able to work on many politically charged projects such as the Harvard Votes Challenge and supporting international students in a time of crisis, or even community building and lighter activities such as virtual escape rooms and virtual Friendsgivings. Being a part of HGC this year has been super exciting and fulfilling. And as vice chair, I managed social media campaigns, email blasts, surveys, feedback forums, and newsletters, and ensured the larger Harvard community was informed of events, news, and essential information in and around campus. And due to all of our work this year, I'm happy to say that engagement has been at an all-time high. For me personally, the One Harvard philosophy is essential to any initiatives I pursue with the council. This semester, I co-founded the first Harvard Graduate Council podcast called One, that puts Harvard graduate students in direct conversation with each other and furthers HGC One Harvard philosophy while also encouraging important dialogue. So we're super excited for that to launch. I was also a part of our finance committee where we oversaw applications for the One Harvard Catalyst Fund. And I'm very passionate about student groups and projects that they bring to the table and happy to support them in any way HGC can. So to say I have a solid understanding of how the group functions from the core of it, and I'm super motivated to tackle operations and logistics while expanding and also maintaining the HGC vision. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tara. Do we have any questions from the incumbent, so Himija?
No questions on my end, but I do want to comment that I've had the opportunity to work with Tara on the podcast, and we're really excited for it. And it's been a pleasure working with you this semester.
Oh, thanks so much.
All right, any other questions from any of the other reps? All right, Rachel.
Yeah, I just wanted to hear more about what you see as the sort of key components of the ops role and why you think you're sort of best suited to do that job.
Yeah, definitely. I I feel like just being a part of the HGC in the virtual semester has been so new and also strange for everybody involved. Like Hima just said, she had to redefine her role in so many ways. And as vice chair of communications, communications in a physical world is quite different. You physically talk to people, you arrange meetings, maybe you hang up posters, so many different things. But with that being said, in the virtual world, I have been able to connect and form a community with people I have literally not seen outside of this small rectangle, which I think is fantastic and also super crazy in many different ways. So, I mean, this year, I think has been incredibly challenging in that way. So hopefully when we get back into person next year, the challenges will be different and hopefully not as grand as this year. So hopefully that being said, I feel super prepared to deal with what comes my way next semester, just because how it has been this year. And yeah, it's been super exciting. And I think all of us at HGC, we've handled so many different things. Just being virtual, all of us have been part of logistics in some way, communications in some way. I've been working with the chair of student life with events in many different ways as well. So I feel like I have a strong understanding of how each different post at the HGC works just by talking to people so much, Zooming with them, WhatsApping with them. So yeah, I feel like I would be extremely suited for this position, especially with the events that have happened this semester and the way I've been able to connect with all of the members in the council.
Nariman?
Yeah, really quick question, Tara. Which one are you more excited about, operations or finance?
That's like so blatant. Personally, I would say operations. It is something I'm very passionate about. Logistics is yeah, it's something I'm good at, and yeah, it excites me.
And that's time on questions.
All right, so let us move on to our second candidate, Elizabeth Trees from the Extension School.
Yes, can you hear me? Okay. So good evening, everyone. So it would be an honor to join you on the Harvard Graduate Council as the Chair of Operations. I look forward to the opportunity to assist with your objectives and the advancement of the Harvard Graduate Council's initiatives. So I've worked as an intern within the highest levels of the federal government. I've interned at NASA and the Office of Communications, the U.S. State Department, and the Office of the United States Trade Representative. While in these positions, my duties included working with senators, members of Congress, cabinet appointees, etc., as well as members of the public. And during my time in the Office of Public and Media Affairs at USTR, I assisted with the monitoring of global news outlets and the collecting of press clips, with kind of familiarize myself with various computer information systems that I may use in this role. My assignments also included conducting research on trade issues, drafting press releases, and creating social media content for USTR, as well as NASA. And the experience I gained within these roles fortified me with the attributes you're looking for in a chair of operations and can be put to immediate use in achieving HGC's goals. As a recent college graduate, I enrolled in many courses that taught the importance of teamwork and paying close attention to the details, which I think is one of my strongest skills. I have experience with public speaking, and I will dedicate myself to becoming a valuable member of your team. Business systems and analytics was also my minor in college. I attended Stetson University, which is a small school in DeLand, Florida. And I know that my knowledge of computer systems, software, and spreadsheets will be a valuable asset. I am also a current degree candidate for a master's in extension studies in management, and I take the greatest pride in being a member of the Harvard University community. And I look forward to the opportunity to grow in my capacity as a manager and a public servant to the Harvard Graduate Council during the upcoming year. I would take great pleasure in joining your team, and thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you so much. Looks like we have a question from Nariman. Oh no, sorry. The hand was still up before. Hey, we have a question from Himaja.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for being here with us today. My question is, even though it's not a requirement for someone in the executive board, for example, someone in chair of operations to go above and beyond their role, but if you had the time and you had the capability, what is something that you would do in addition to what your roles and responsibilities are, and why?
Of course, yes. So one thing that I would probably, as your chair of operations, really take, I would say the most seriously in my roles is really illuminating the voices that differ from mine. So as a member of the extension school and as a white woman, I really believe that it's most important that I illuminate voices that have historically been underrepresented. I know my own has been historically representative, so I really take pride in illuminating others that have been historically underrepresented, excuse me, I apologize. So one thing that I would take really seriously is bringing on to the board speakers, if possible, perhaps Black speakers, Native American, Asian, for example, voices that have been historically underrepresented, so that I may learn and that we all may learn how we can really illuminate these voices on the Harvard Graduate Council and then ultimately across the entire Harvard community. That's one of the things that I believe would be of most importance on my agenda.
Thank you.
All right, I think Narman has a question now. Is that correct? Okay.
So to embody exactly what you said, if you were to vote, will you give your vote to Tara?
So if I, yeah, so yes, so I can see that Tara is a young woman who in all likelihood has her voice has been historically underrepresented in comparison to mine. So yes, if everyone else on the council believed that she was the best individual for the job, then ultimately I think the goals and the objectives of the council would come before my own. I hope that answers your question.
Great. Any other questions? Emily, how are we doing on time?
20 seconds left.
Okay. Well, just for the sake of time, maybe let us move on to the next candidate, Brian Jones from the Divinity School. And thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Hello, everyone. I am Byron Jones. I am a first-year Master of Divinity student at Harvard Divinity School. For me, my experience of operations come from my fraternity. I'm a part of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. And in this fraternity, I had the opportunity to serve as assistant of College Brothers Affairs. And in that position, I oversaw everything logistics and operational from Maine all the way down to Virginia, the whole entire eastern region of the United States, and also 5 international places. I was in charge of the operations of room booking, ballroom booking, hotel reservations, even coordinating everything that goes into having international college brothers come over to the United States from the governance level and from the fraternity level. In our meetings, I took time for them. I was in charge of making sure that everything ran operationally smooth. And over 1,000 college brothers, that can be kind of hard with the young college men. But through the operational standpoint, everything went fantastic. And that's a little bit about my experience from 11 states to 5 international places. I oversaw everything logistical for the Eastern Regional Convention. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions from either the incumbent or any other reps? Yeah, Himija, go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you so much, Byron, for being with us today and sharing your experiences and why you're qualified. It was great to listen to. My question is, obviously one thing that I discussed, and something that we've seen is that a lot of times representatives, have a little bit of difficulty, and we've seen this difficulty with the online environment, but it's something that we've seen repeatedly, is that it's hard for reps to get a real understanding of kind of what the needs are from their student body. And as chair of operations, you have a unique role because you are the communication thread between the executive board and the reps. And I'm wondering if you can tell us about what your thoughts are and how we can potentially bridge the gap and support our reps, and at the same time support our executive board in making sure that the needs of the students are being addressed on both ends.
Thank you for that remarkable question. I think that people underestimate the power of presence. Being actively in the community and active in the schools is something that is very powerful and proves to be pivotal in building relationships. You can't build a relationship with someone you barely see or you barely talk to. So having that open line of availability to meet with them, to talk with them, to discuss their needs and their wants, making sure that their voices are being brought to the forefront in any school that they are part of. And even for my background, for international brothers who we could not have that same visibility that we do here in the United States, we had often international meetings over Zoom or via Microsoft to really make sure that their voice is being heard for the entire national fraternity, that we want to make sure that we are here listening to them and that we hear them and we are taking their needs and wants into consideration.
Great. Any other questions? We have 40 seconds left. I'll ask a question for Brian. What is a initiative that you would like to see spearheading, like what Himija asked earlier, spearheading as in your role as a member of the executive board for Harvard Graduate Council next year? I think you're muted.
Oh. Well, as a recurring theme we have already heard, is that building relationships, that there has been, I guess, some lack of disconnect between the student representatives, and bringing that, building that relationship that we can all foster, to making sure that we're all connected across the Harvard Graduate Council. And so that's one of the initiatives I would take in bridging that gap and making sure that we are being the best Harvard Graduate Council we can possibly be by illuminating the voices that are historically underrepresented, as Ms. Elizabeth said.
Great. Thank you so much, all three candidates. And now we will start voting. I think we're missing, okay, Mason, one more, or we're good now, Emily, right? Okay. Sorry, give us 1 second. Oh, Franklin said he didn't vote. How many do we have now?
We got 12 votes.
Okay, all right.
I can relaunch, but we need someone who voted in the last round that wasn't supposed to vote to just hold back from hitting that button.
All right, I think we should just confirm things. I'm going to call out each school and who the voting rep is. Please answer with your name. Oh, we did that already with everyone listing out. All right, let's just do it this really quickly. Alrighty, so we have HBS.
Yeah, Chuck's voting.
Okay, HDS.
Taylor's voting.
Okay, extension school.
Naomi's voting.
GSAS.
Rachel's voting.
Graduate School of Design.
Layer is voting.
Education.
Neriman is voting.
Kennedy.
Nick's voting.
Law.
Diego's voting.
Medical.
Who's voting?
Dental.
Franklin's voting.
Okay, and then C's.
Rachel?
Okay, School of Public Health.
Ruthvidge is voting.
Okay, all right. So if you did not just speak up, please do not vote in this upcoming poll. Let's launch it again. Yep.
So we've gotten 13 votes.
In case
one
might be hitting abstain and thinking that they're not voting. I don't know if that has anything to do with it.
Oh, but like if you're hitting abstain, that's your vote.
I've been Xing out. I don't know. That might be a mistake someone might be making. I'm not sure if that shows up on the results though.
Oh. All right, so this does make a difference. So we're gonna get everyone to privately message Emily with their votes. Sorry about the difficulties.
Please include your school name in the vote, just so we can be double sure. Thank you. Okay, and this will take me a second because it's coming in a little piecemeal with schools too. So just bear with us.
So what's the problem with the poll now that Nima, you've been hitting abstain?
Oh, there might have been a reason if a 13th person was accidentally abstaining instead of Xing. That's just a guess.
So just to confirm, we just private chat Emily with candidate votes.
Yep, just who, just the name, just your school and the name of the person you're hoping to vote for.
If you originally just sent me your candidate name and then the school name later on, can you just send me a message with all of it in one? Because it got very disjointed and I want to make sure we get this right. Thank you.
Since Emily is counting the votes, I just wanted to update everyone on what's happening after elections. So after elections, we will be looking at 2 constitutional amendments and then voting on that, and then we will adjourn. So just letting, oh, and then we're taking photos. Maybe we should take photos before the constitutional amendments. What do you think, Brett?
Yeah, maybe that'd be good in case people have to turn off right after.
Yeah, or go to bed.
Or go to bed or go out.
Okay, if you sent these to me, they got lost in the shuffle. Could HES and SEAS please send their votes to me? Okay, great. I got everyone. I'm just sharing the tallies with Jinsia.
Emily, how did you share with me? I couldn't see. Oh, okay. Okay, so for majority, we do not have a majority, which means that we actually drop as there was a tie, we drop the bottom two and then do a revote with the candidate that did not have majority. So that would be a revote with Tara. Emily, do you mind launching the poll?
Sure, I just need to make a new poll, but just to clarify for everyone, so that would just be voting for Tara or abstain. It actually might be quicker if just anyone who wants to abstain messages that to me.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So just to clarify everything, this is because we changed from the a clause of whoever wins is the one that has the most number of votes to whoever wins has to have a majority, which has to be 7 votes.
Shouldn't it be a revote between the 3? Because it's the top 2 vote getters that have to be in the revote. So if there's a tie at number 2, all 3 have to be in the revote.
But then we would just get the same situation.
Well, no, given what we know now, people might change their vote.
Oh, okay. Well, according to Robert's rules, I believe it is actually, can we have Peter, our Robert's rule champion, let us know what we should do in this situation?
Yeah, that's correct. If there's 2 of the same lowest numbers, you have to drop both candidates. And you rerun with just candidate A and abstention in case the council does not vote in favor of candidate A, which in case that would be a vacancy.
How was the case different than when we were doing a revote between Peter and Jojo on the president position?
We dropped William as the lowest vote.
Right, but we reran between you, Peter, and Jojo. So why are we not running now, rerunning between Tara and the second lowest?
Oh, I'll give you guys the numbers
yeah,
in the
there's
reps
2 of the
chat.
same numbers in the last 2 candidates. Council could just call for a revote though, exactly as
Yeah,
Chuck
the council can call for a revote.
thinks that, that would make a big difference and someone would like to change their mind.
Motion to revote.
Any dissent? Oh, second, any dissent? All right. That passes. So I think you should just revote with all 3 candidates then, Emily.
Okay, sounds good.
Great, so I can launch the poll again. We just need everyone to
I have a point of inquiry, actually. Am I correct in seeing that there's only...
Sorry, it was a typo.
What was that?
Sorry, it was a typo. If you check the reps chat again for the numbers.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, I'm relaunching the poll. just because the other way takes so long.
We need one more vote and then we're all set. Okay, great. And congratulations, Tara, for winning majority and becoming our next chair of operations.
Thank you so much.
So let us move on to our next position, which is chair of finance, which at the moment we do not have any candidates for since Tara was voted chair of operations. Do we have any nominations on the floor? Okay, given that we have no nominations.
Kinsey, I'll nominate myself.
Oh, okay, great. Jojo, yeah, please give you your speech.
Can I nominate myself to go after Jojo?
Yeah, of course.
Guys, sorry to hijack elections real quick, but we are at time. Taylor, would you like to make the motion to extend?
Oh gosh, the pressure. Sure. I motion to extend the meeting by 20 minutes.
Is there a second?
Can I make another motion of postponing to the next meeting, or does this all have to be done in one meeting?
I'll second that.
I was going to say I seconded Taylor's motion to extend by 20 minutes.
And to be clear, my second was on Nariman's motion to continue this at the next meeting.
Yeah, so it looks like we're gonna lose a voting rep too as well. Chinsia, what do you want to do?
We've never had a scenario where we like for elections generally, unfortunately, we do have it on one day, and we've had elections for like 3 to 4 hours in the past. So yeah, I don't know, I guess
Should we vote on it?
yeah, I guess let's vote on it.
Yeah, we should respect the council's decision. So in order of precedence, the motion to postpone is higher. So we'll vote for that one first, okay? So let me just type that into the chat real quick. Sorry, Emily, I'm gonna steal your powers back. Motion to postpone elections to next meeting. All right, all those in favor, type aye. All those opposed?
Sorry, all. Could we do one?
Yep. Oh, sorry. I think you muted your mic by accident, but I think I heard, to clarify, to postpone the rest of the elections for the next meeting, because it looks like we're going to lose our public health rep in about 5 minutes.
I mean, technically we don't need, like, it would be great to have all 12 reps
Yeah,
present, but it is what everyone thinks about having the candidates here today and being able to but yeah, let us
Yeah.
see what the reps say.
We'll still vote on it. Yep. We have 8 votes in. Right. So we're waiting on GSAS, dental, and
Dental's already voted.
dental's already voted. Franklin did?
Sorry, I didn't have connection to hear what we're voting on. Sorry, Peter.
We're
Could
voting
you
on
just repeat
postponing the
it?
elections to the next meeting. Yeah, I don't see dental.
Thanks.
One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 10 votes in. Waiting on the last 2.
We already lost Rootfish.
No, Rootfish voted early.
Oh, also Brett had a great idea that let us take our photo now while Peter tallies everyone. So let's do that before we lose any people. Yeah, so Brett, how did you want to do this? Did you want the reps to all go in a breakout room and then?
Well, why don't we, it's going to be easier to just have anyone who's not a rep to go into a breakout room.
Okay, all right, so.
We have 5 votes in favor.
Emily was our host. So Emily, if you can make a breakout room.
Do you want, it might be easier if people who aren't reps could turn off their camera, you can do hide non-video participants.
Okay, that's a great idea. Let's do that.
Let's do that. If we can ask everyone who is not presently a rep or on the executive board, or not on the, everyone who's not currently a rep. Just reps, Chancia?
Yeah, just reps first. Exec board, we'll do this later. So just reps, please. And then one of the reps, please take a screenshot because I don't think I can.
I think I can do it.
And implicitly, anybody who is a rep should have their video on too.
Yes. All right, make the explicit implied.
Yeah,
no,
Jojo, I don't think you can, like.
No, you're right. I think one of the reps will. Emily, do you want to take charge?
Yeah, I don't know if it's because I'm the host. It's not allowing me to do my usual hide non-video participants. Did someone else have that on their screen?
I can do it if no one else is able to.
Thanks, William.
Thank you. Just give us like a 3, 2, 1, please.
Okay. Let me just get my cursor ready. All right, 3,
Peter, just reps.
2, 1, cheese. All right, we're good. Let me post it into where I think it goes.
All right, and then Peter, what was the results of the voting?
5 in favor, so motion fails.
Okay.
So
good,
next
okay.
motion to extend by 20 minutes. And we got a second. Is that from Naomi?
Can anyone extend that by slightly longer? I think we need, since we already spent 10 minutes.
Yeah, so we'll do 20 minutes from now. So
Okay.
28. All right, all those in here, let me type it in. Extend by 20. All those in favor, type aye. All those opposed, type nay. All those abstain, type abstain. Thank you, Ripage.
So Peter, can I act as a proxy? Is that okay?
Do we have any other option? Like, is there Kimberlyn or anyone else around from HSP?
I can reach out to Kimberlyn. I'll see if I can reach her.
Yeah, she's
Thanks,
not on the meeting, but yeah, Himaja's the other HSPH person, so I thought she would be the best.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you.
4, 5, 6. We have 6 in favor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, 7 in favor. So motion passes.
Okay, great. Let us open the floor to our candidates. First, Jojo for Chair of Finance.
Sure. So I'll be very brief and say congratulations to Peter on his election as president. I think he's done a wonderful job this year. I think he's going to do a fantastic job next year. As I mentioned when I spoke running there, I do still have certain goals that I would love to be able to accomplish with the HGC, and have loved the opportunity to participate. And so, even if it's taking on a different role, I would be very happy to do it. I'm very happy to continue to be part of HGC and to take the other part of experience and knowledge that I have, which has been running budgets. I've been on the student finance board for the law school. I've done budgeting and that sort of financial management stuff in several other jobs that I had before law school. The HGC has a large and fairly complex budget, and I would be happy to take over the reins from Brett and continue to contribute to this wonderful community that is One Harvard. Thank you.
I think I get to ask the first question.
Sorry. Yeah, ask the first question, yes.
All right, Jojo, what would you consider to be a justifiable expenditure for HGC funding?
I think that the job of someone of a chair of finance is to make sure that the finances will be directed to those things that can best be used for, and to take a step back and look at the finances and make sure that things aren't being overspent. I think that the real benchmark for something that is, justified or encouraged would be something that will either fall into one of the major mission points of the HGC. So something that will encourage community building or help encourage advocacy, help build relationships among members of the HGC, both in the general body and the executive board, or things that have or will garner a majority of student support and therefore meet the mission, such as the One Harvard Catalyst Fund recipients. I think Nariman has a question.
Yeah. Hey, Jojo. So what is one thing that HGC this year overspent on and that you, if you take chair of finance, would redirect to something else? And what would that other something else be next year?
Well, it's a good question. I will start by saying that I think that Brett did a fantastic job this year. Overspending was not as much of an issue because so much of it was remote. There were not as many things going on. I would say that I would like to perhaps put in place a little more, just as much of a robust structure as we can for the finance committee, so we can really vet requests, make sure that they're going to help further the mission of the HGC, and not just be spent perhaps on some of the sort of finer accoutrements that look nice and may not further the mission, which is not to say that didn't happen, but I think a robust system would be very valuable, especially as we return to in-person and hopefully are able to fund more events, more things that are sort of the bread and butter of what the budget has traditionally been used for.
Great, and that's time on questions.
Great, let's have Elizabeth give her speech.
So, hello everyone. So I will continue again. My speech doesn't differ that greatly from my previous one, but I'll reiterate. So it would be an honor to join you on the Harvard Graduate Council as your chair of finance. Again, I look forward to the opportunity to assist with your objectives and the advancement of the Harvard Graduate Council's initiatives, particularly in the finance area. So as I said, I've interned at NASA, the U.S. Department of State, and the Office of the United States Trade Representative. But my experience in this particular field I really garnered it during my time as an undergraduate student at Stetson University. While I was there, I was the treasurer of one of the clubs that I participated in. I held that treasury position for 3 years. I was the first woman to hold that position, that treasury position, and that's a distinction that I am very proud to have held. I believe that we need more women in representation, even if it is just for club executive leadership board. But particularly, so I ran the finances for that particular club for 3 years. And then I also took my experience within that club and I became the treasurer and actually the president of a community outreach program focused on Spring Hill, which is one of the poorest communities in all of Florida. It was only a few miles from my undergraduate university in DeLand, Florida. And through my initiatives to become the treasurer and eventually the president of that outreach organization, I helped to manage the finances of this particular outreach, as I said, that focused on really reaching out and providing meal services as well as mentoring services to the underserved community, actually the young people of that community. It was a trailer park community. And as I said, one of the poorest and most dangerous communities in all of Florida. But I take great pride in having used my position as a privileged college student to help outreach and uplift these young people so that they may further their education and hopefully their economic opportunities in the future. And so I look forward to bringing my experience within this field to the Harvard Graduate Council so that I may do the same for the Harvard community. Thank you very much for your time this evening once again.
All right, let's start with questions. Brett?
So same question, what would you consider to be some justifiable expenditures for the Harvard Graduate Council funds?
So yes, so I would just like to reiterate from Jojo, I do not believe that over expenditures were a real issue in the past year, but my goals remain the same from my previous running for the chair of operations. I would probably prioritize bringing on speakers and individuals who could speak about underrepresented voices so that I might become, and we might become, allies to those individuals all across the Harvard community. And that's one of my top priorities.
Great. Any other questions?
We're at the 3 minutes.
Okay, perfect. So let us move on to voting. And we will do the poll.
No poll? I already launched it. Sorry. That's
No, we are doing the poll.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Waiting for 2 more votes. One more vote, but it seems like we've slowed down. Actually, I guess the additional vote doesn't matter. We have majority. So congratulations, Jojo, for being elected position chair of finance. Great. Let us now move on to the next position, which we have as chair of student life. So first we have our candidate, Brian Jones. And just so everyone knows, we are limiting questions now to 2 minutes instead of 3 minutes.
Hello again. I am Byron Jones. For this particular position, my background in working as the events coordinator for the Student Government Association for my university, where we planned homecoming, planned Fall Fest, and any other major campus activities. We was known as the Panther Path, where we coordinated the festivities that was taking place on Virginia Union University's campus. And besides that, also I interned at a 16,000 member church here in Houston, Texas, where I was in charge of planning services and special events outreach community for 16,000 people to be on the campus of the church. And it's also for services, so back to school revival, revivals in general, Sunday services, and any events that we were having on campus. I was in charge of planning and executing those events.
Great. Do I have any questions from the incumbent?
Yeah, I have a question. So this year, Emery and I build and strengthen collaboration both internally and externally, such as partnership with MIT and Stanford Graduate Council, Harvard College Data Match, and more. As the campus transitions from virtual to in-person, how will you work to be a liaison between HGC, student body, and our external partnerships to promote connection, inclusivity, and connection to students around you?
Great question. As we are transitioning back to on campus in person, I think the best option would be to be in person, to actually hold events that will allow for MIT students and other areas around to come and mingle with us in a safe and COVID protocol way, to emphasize that connection and build that partnership that may have dwindled a bit just via Zoom and Microsoft. This is you can be zoomed out sometimes, so we might miss some people. So yeah, I think that would be the best option for us.
Amazing. Narman?
Byron, what is one thing that you hate about this role, or that you feel like when you step into it, you really want to transform it and you don't want this role to play it this way?
I'm not entirely sure if I have anything that I think could change. For me, I've always been a planner. I've always been a person who oversaw operation logistics. I've always been that type of person. And I find it to be fun. I do not have any critiques or bad things about it. For doing it for a 16,000 member church and also for a 2,000 college campus. So I didn't have any complaints about the position. I'm sorry, I could not give you a particular answer.
And we're at time.
Great. Let's move on to our next candidate, which I believe is Elizabeth.
Yes, hello everyone. So you've all have gotten to know me personally. So for this particular position, I'll move into my qualifications. So the chair of student life is responsible for overseeing, in part, high profile events. So I have had the experience overseeing high profile events while I was at NASA. I was responsible for overseeing events focused on the outreach of young women being involved in the Artemis program, of which I participated in that program. And that program, if you're unfamiliar, will put the first woman on the moon and will put the first man and woman on Mars, hopefully within the next decade. I also had experience coordinating high profile events and speakers while at the Office of the United States Trade Representative, which was a very exciting time. Another responsibility that I would hold within this position is compiling event proposals, which I performed during my time at NASA. I compiled event proposals focused on Artemis and then landing the Mars rover. So that was very exciting, and I know that I could bring my skills here to the Harvard Graduate Council. I was also responsible for maintaining records and templates while at NASA, which falls into the line of duties for this particular position. I also performed those duties while an undergraduate student, focusing on the outreach program, which I spoke about earlier concerning the Shade-to-Land Spring Hill community. And lastly, I would be responsible for overseeing and being responsible for individual responsibilities. So I am an individual who holds discretion and respect in the highest regard. I would bring these qualities to the Harvard Graduate Council, and it would be the highest honor to serve you within this position. And I want to thank you for your time this evening.
Thanks so much, Elizabeth. Any questions? Oh, yeah, Angela first.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So being chair of student life is not only just about hosting high profile events. One of the focus is to host some kinds of like health and wellness events. So I was just wondering if you have any plans if you are the chair of student life this year.
Of course, yes. So it would be my pleasure. So I've had experience concerning the outreach program during my undergraduate years that I spoke about. So that one of the focuses we had a few different focuses, but one of the focuses was bringing health and wellness awareness to this community because it was a low income community. And as we likely are all aware, in low income communities, kind of epidemics such as obesity and diabetes and high blood pressure can arise. So one of our focuses was informing these young students and these young individuals about how taking care of their health can be beneficial, not only for their bodies, for their minds. So one of my this would be one of my focuses as the chair of student life. I would like to bring on, particularly, I think us as students, particularly at Harvard University, I think sleep is probably something that maybe some of us are deficient in. So I would like to use that as one of the platforms concerning the health and wellness division that I focus on, concerning healthy sleep and how it can benefit us as individuals and also within our academic lives.
Naomi?
30 seconds, so just make it a quick one.
Oh yeah, I was just wondering, outside of what you've already discussed with us, what would be a key initiative you might want to spearhead as the chair of student life?
Yeah, so health and wellness would also be my focus. So sleep and a healthy diet would be, I'd like to bring on speakers and individuals who can speak knowledgeably about this subject. And I would have to say that having speakers that can inform and uplift underprivileged voices is something that I would be focused on within this role as well.
And that's time.
Great, thank you. Let us have our third candidate who has been kindly waiting this whole time, Estefania.
Yeah, that's perfect. Hi, everyone. So I'm Estefania Garcia, passionate Colombian woman who enjoyed travel and learning about new cultures, and pursuing a master's degree in management at Harvard Extension School. And I want to join the Harvard Graduate Council in the position of chair of student life for 3 reasons. First, in this role, I want to focus on building through our difference. At Harvard, we have 12 different schools, and we have a very diverse community. I want to leverage the measures of how our difference make us stronger. As a Latin American leader woman, I see how diversity and inclusion makes the difference. Second, I want to bring my experience in marketing, sales, and project management to identify the student journey and uncover their needs. Connecting with the students through activities that fulfill their needs. And I think you have been doing a great job. We have the wellness, we have the Friendsgiving last year. What I want to do is leverage technology to gain more insights about how can we provide purposeful events. Finally, I want to leverage my current network to increase our pool of sponsors and keynotes. And the most important, we are here to build a community and to serve the students. The opportunity to help through my work to improve the students' life excites me because we can create meaningful experience for Harvard students across all schools. How I see it, we are leading an extended community to engage, embrace our diversity and help. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm happy to hear your questions.
Great. Do we have a question from the incumbent?
What top 3 qualities do you possess as chair of student life? And how can these qualities strengthen our student council and our HGC events?
Yeah, I think the first one is leadership. So as a student, you need to really know how to lead people because you are going to make events and you don't have authority, but you need to make things happen. So leadership is definitely one. The second is active listening. I think this role is here to provide events that really fulfill the needs of the students. And I think if you have active listening, we have a lot of people here who can give us ideas and really go through the needs of our students. And finally, I think, of course, event management, I'm currently part of an employee resource group that is basically focused on events. And what I do is all time looking for how to provide events that really connect with the needs of the employees resource groups that are positive impacted by our group. I hope that answered your question, Angela.
Rachel?
Yes, I'd love to hear more about your drawing on your network of sponsors and keynotes. Can you give a few examples of what that?
Yeah, of course. So as I mentioned, I work as a global sourcing manager of marketing and sales. And for my role, I have the opportunity to connect in different events, knowing a lot of people. I met keynotes like Henner Munhan, and I don't know if you know her. She's a very influenced woman in terms of confidence. I also are part of Women's in Leadership. That's an organization that basically focuses on creating networking for women. So I think I have a good network that I will definitely want to bring to support us. But one of the things that I have been learning through my life is not about your network, but it's about how to connect with everyone's network. You know, it's how to really build over the ideas that we have. So I think that will be the most valuable topic here. I hope that answered your question, Rachel.
Thanks. And we have Naomi.
We're at time.
Okay, great. Sorry, Naomi. All right, now let's move on to voting. All right.
Go ahead, Chinzia.
So we have a majority. We want to congratulate Stephanie Garcia for winning the position.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to our candidates. We're going to move on to next, our chair of advocacy. Does anyone want to nominate themselves on the floor for this position before we get started? Alrighty, so we'll start first with Xavier Said.
Hi, everybody. My name is Xavier Said, and I'm a first-year student in the Divinity School. I'm getting a master's in theological studies, but my work is actually on music as a response to cultural and structural violence. I'll start by telling you a little bit about the work I've done. I'm on HGS's Standing Committee for Diversity and Inclusion, where I'm working with a small team to put together a faculty guide document for creating an anti-oppressive classroom environment. And I'm also on the Harvard Radcliffe Collegium Musicum, so many words on that, but the Collegium Musicum's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, where I'm writing an article for the Harvard Crimson about the work that we're doing as the DEI committee and how that's interweaving with our interactions with the canonical musical text. I've also spent 10 years as an advocate for an organization called Best Buddies, advocating for the social inclusion of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And probably one of the most difficult places my advocacy work has taken me is into I'm from Indiana, former Governor Mike Pence's office, talking about transgender access to healthcare with his acting healthcare secretary. And I'm sure you guys can imagine how fun that was. So those are a little bit about my credentials and what makes me a fitting representative to really connect with other people and elevate the voices of student concerns on campus throughout the 12 graduate schools. Credentials aside, I think it's really important that I tell you why I'm so passionate about this role. I think connection is really, really important, and this body really exemplifies that perfectly. And that's, I think, the key to redressing some of the harm that we see. I know we're all here because we are proud of our communities, but we also are painfully aware of those harmful institutional structures, and I'm very passionate about coming together to address those. And also happy to answer any questions. Thank you all so much.
Great. Let's have a question first from our incumbent, Abinaya, if she has any questions.
Sure. Thank you, Xavier. My question for you is, what do you anticipate being the greatest challenges in the role as chair of advocacy, and how would you overcome those challenges?
I think from my experience working with the, thank you, by the way, for your question. working with the Diversity, Belonging, and Inclusion Committee at HDS, this work could really be a full-time job, and and you're doing it alongside all of your other commitments, but also the way the institution is set up is very striated and fragmented, and really what's going on here and what I've heard everybody really pushing for is something that is novel in this environment, and the things that we want to see are reliant on that connection, but it's so firmly ingrained. So I think overcoming that is a huge challenge, and I think it starts with what Byron was saying earlier, with building relationships with students. I mean, I think where operations is between the executive board and the general council, this role is between the whole council and the student body, but also with the administration, the central administration, connecting person to person in all of those scenarios, and then talking about the things that we need to get done.
Thank you. I think we had a question from Peter.
Yeah, hi Xavier. So one of the things that has changed based on the constitutional amendments is the different proportionality of reps. And so by default, in terms of the voices in the room, the schools with the bigger populations will have more numbers in terms of contributions to the council. And I think with advocacy matters, sometimes they tend to be like somewhat polarizing. How would you handle that as chair of advocacy when bigger schools sort of get a bigger voice, and smaller schools might be drowned out of the conversation?
That's a great question, and I wasn't necessarily aware that things worked that way, but I think it all just comes back to connection for me, and connecting person to person, and making sure that when we're in those spaces of dialogue, it's not necessarily about here's what I think and I have the big voice, so that's what's going to go, but saying, you know what, we have connected so well as a team that even though all of our opinions could drown yours out, I still feel like because I'm connected to you, because I have a relationship with you, I want to hear what you have to say, and I'm now invested in the process of figuring out how we reach a middle ground.
And that's time.
Thank you.
Amazing. Let us have our next. I think our next candidate is Zakar Shabir, but I'm not sure if they're on the call. Zakar is, all right, let us move on to the next candidate, Elizabeth Therese. I believe she was on, but maybe she dropped off. All right, and then our last candidate, Zishan Ali.
No, he pulled out of the race before.
Oh, did he? Okay. Okay, if Elizabeth is not here, I guess we run the poll for our only candidate. Naomi, yes.
I just was wondering if that would be considered a withdrawal since she already spoke 3 times for other positions. Is that worth a consideration, or would it just be the one? I'm just for principal purposes.
Yeah, do you think like maybe her internet cut off?
I don't know. I was just wondering, since she did participate in the election, if that would count, even though it's not for this particular position.
Even for no-shows, you would keep them on the ballot. It's up to the voters.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep her on the ballot.
Give me 1 sec then, because I just removed those people.
And guys, I apologize. I'm not trying to be a stickler for the rules. I am getting some private messages from other reps, and I know it's late. So out of respect for everyone's time, since we're all kind of holding you hostage here, is there any dissent to extending time by 20 more minutes?
Yes, I mean, we've got one position, right?
I mean, we'll end it early if we have to. I'm just overestimating.
20 minutes from 9:30.
Yeah,
right?
20 minutes from 9.
Just 10 minutes from now, Norman.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll finish in 3, Nirman. I'm so sorry about your time zone difference. I do want to respect that as well. Okay, all right. I will count that as a passing motion. 9:50. Thank you, guys.
I think after this is just Nima.
Yeah, we'll probably table the 2 constitutional amendments. And if the people who want to make the amendments propose it now over WhatsApp, we can have a 2-week sufficient period to run an e-vote if you'd like.
I
just put over in
they
the-
already moved it.
For that, yeah.
And poll is live for Chair of Advocacy.
Thank you, Emily.
All right, we have majority. Congratulations, Xavier, for becoming our next Chair of Advocacy. And now we have our final position, Chair Information. We'll have Nima give his speech, unless anyone else is running against. Oh wait, no one can, sorry. Because of precedence clause.
I'll take away precedence if anyone wants to run from the chairs. I didn't realize that's something you can take away.
If anyone wants to run against Nima, feel free to do so. If not, Nima, please continue.
So hi everyone, I'll keep it short. My name is Nima Shariat and I'm running for the HGC Chair of Information. I'm currently a 3rd-year Master of Architecture student at the GSD, and before coming at Harvard, I did a triple major in computer science, economics, and art at UC Santa Cruz. So dealing with these 3 different programs kind of honed my abilities in mining and compiling information that spans across several departments. My background in CS gives me confidence and excitement for the technical aspects of this position, such as managing the website and being the liaison to Harvard IT. The first ever meeting I attended at the HGC was as a student, and it was back at the start of the pandemic and included a brief presentation on the financial structure and tuition breakdowns of each of the schools, a sort of overview version of what we had recently. This came at a time of frustration amongst my fellow students at the GSD surrounding tuition and fees, and the information I relayed from the meeting was critical in having more informed and productive asks from the administration. Through this, I learned the unique role HGC has in unifying our actions as a bundle of Harvard schools, and I'll work to maintain and build upon the systems that enable this. This past year, I served as one of the voting reps for the GSD to the HGC, and I initiated, organized, and ran a set of mixers between the 12 Harvard graduate schools. In doing so, I learned the importance of information and building inter-school collaborations, and whether that be managing email lists, program schedules, or departmental points of contact. As Chair of Information, I'll work hard in ensuring that the HGC continues to be an important and accessible archive that aids in socializing between the schools, for interdisciplinary collaboration, and for collective action. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the incumbent or any questions from anyone? If not, let us move into.
I think Heidi.
Oh, Heidi, please go ahead.
Is there anyone else running? Is it just Nima?
It's just Nima.
Nima, so just quickly, can you just share a little bit more about, what priorities you see as a candidate for the role of Chair of Information, based on your time at the GSC and as a student who's also sort of played a periphery role at the HGC?
Yeah, I think the main frustration I've had has been like the opacity of the various Harvard schools. And that comes from like trying to be in touch with other Harvard programs that you're not a part of, but also internally, at least accessing information from the GSD. So I'd like to build up like a more robust set of systems that can make it accessible to students to like look at and like basically find a point of reference amongst other Harvard schools and kind of making that a more public set of information, but also work kind of behind the scenes on the back end on automating certain processes of collecting, compiling information from various programs and to like adjust for the inner nuances and quirks of each of the schools by building relations with each of the IT programs or marketing programs or any information related body at each of the different schools.
Great. Let's start. Well, Mina, I don't think you are a rep. So let us move on to voting, but feel free to
actually just to intercede, Mina is a rep, so she can
Oh,
technically ask a question.
Sorry, okay. But yeah, let's move on to voting, but Nina, feel free.
Oh, it's okay. We can go into voting.
All right, we have majority. Congratulations, Nima, for becoming our Chair of Information for the next upcoming year. So that's a wrap on all of the positions. Thank you, reps, so much for staying behind and allowing for us to continue with elections. What else? We have our meeting in 2 weeks' time, and that's our last meeting, I think, for the Is that correct, Himaja? Or do we have two more?
One more.
We have one more general body meeting and two more executives.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, reps, and it was such an honor to serve as your president this year. You'll see me at one more meeting, and then hopefully see you guys around campus when we're back, because I'll be around for 5 more years or 5 more years, depending on how long my PhD is. So hopefully I'll see you all.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
And then executive members, please stay behind for a photo.
Be 1 minute.
Motion to adjourn.
Anyone motion to adjourn? We need a representative.
I will do it. I will
Thank
motion.
you, Emily.
Second?
HDS seconds.
Any dissent? All right, HGC General Council is adjourned at 9:45 p.m.